I'm stuck on a mountain, sheltering inside the bus. Something is trying to get me. It was snowing heavily today. Everything outside was covered with snow. Only the inside of the bus was mostly snow-free. The bodies of the dead passengers were still unchanged because of the cold. As I was laying in my sleeping bag and looking at the body of a girl who was still holding a small teddy bear in her frozen hand, it reminded me how I got here. Dad and I were going on a holiday to go skiing in the local mountain. It was not a very popular destination because it was too far from the nearest town and it was a pretty remote area except for one small village. The driver was visibly in a drunken state when we entered, but we didn't want to wait for another ride to the mountain because the rides to it were rare. We fell asleep during the ride, only to be awakened by the screaming of the passengers as the driver couldn't react in time and drove off the road. We went rolling down the mountain and then everything went black. Looking back at it, Dad and I are lucky to have made it out alive and with minimal injuries. Can't say that the other passengers were so lucky. They were all dead after the wreck, including the driver. At first, we thought we would be rescued. We waited and attempted to endure as long as we could. We started a small fire using some wood we found in the forest and the clothing of some of the deceased passengers, since they won't be needing them anymore. We had some food with us, but it only lasted 3 days until we ran out. We melted the snow so we could have some water. At this point, we realised no one is coming for us. We packed some of our stuff and tried to get out of this valley, but a snowstorm made our efforts futile. We were forced to make this bus our shelter until we find some way of getting out of here. We tried calling for help using our cell phones, but there was no signal on this damn mountain. I sighed and got out of my sleeping bag as I saw that the fire was out. Dad was not on the bus. He must have gone to get some wood from the forest, I thought, as I shook the snow off myself. I looked outside once again while rubbing my hands together to get them warm. I hope that Dad comes soon. Being all alone with these bodies is getting me scared. I don't know why we kept them inside the bus and didn't just toss them outside. My thoughts were interrupted by the growling of my stomach, still needing something to eat. I started rummaging through the bags that were still on the bus. There was no food in the bags, only clothes and some health products. Defeated, I went to the driver's seat so I could see Dad when he comes back. On the seat, I found a handwritten note. I picked it up and it was from Dad. He said he was going on a hunt to get us some food and he thinks that he'll be back by the end of the day. I chose to just burn some of the clothing of the passengers to keep myself warm instead of going outside the bus because it was still heavily snowing. Hours passed and the night started to fall, but Dad had not returned yet. What if he had gotten lost and can't find his way back? Should I go out and try to find him? All of these thoughts were racing through my head, but I decided it was safest to stay inside the bus and wait. Days have passed since Dad left, and I can't hold out any longer without some food. I took my pocket knife and went outside to try and hunt something, or maybe find Dad, or his freezing corpse. I wandered aimlessly in the forest until I spotted a bunny who was standing next to a tree stump. The bunny's fur was so white that it resembled a ghost. The bunny was looking at me. Its eyes were wide open. Then it ran off. I tried chasing it, but it was too fast for me to catch. I looked at it as it ran into the distance. I returned to the bus and just looked at my knife before putting it back in my pocket. Before going back to sleep inside my sleeping bag, I threw all the bodies outside of the bus because they were all starting to creep me out. I had many nightmares in which the dead passengers came back to life and tried to eat me. And that night was no different. The nightmare always started the same. I would just sit in the bus by the fire, and the dead passengers would one by one come back to life and try to eat me. But this time, something was shaking the bus, and I heard my dad yell my name. which is when I woke up. I looked around the bus and outside of it, and thankfully, the bodies were still there. I went back to sleep while holding the knife in my hand. The following morning I went outside the bus to get some wood for the fire, which was getting difficult to find. Last time I was only able to gather a couple of branches. A few meters from the bus I found a pair of hoof prints. It was of a deer that had passed by last night. Too bad I didn't get to kill it. Would have been nice to eat some meat. As I was entering the forest, I got a strange feeling in my gut telling me I should return to the bus. I decided to ignore it and continued. The forest was strangely quiet, not even the birds were singing. While looking for wood in all of the snow, I saw something blue that caught my attention. I pulled it out, and it was my dad's jacket. But there was no sign of him. I searched and yelled his name, but there was no sign of him. It wasn't snowing last night, so if he was here, I would have found the footprints. Maybe some animal carried his jacket here? The jacket had a bizarre drawing on the back of it. It was some kind of animal. A deer, but it was standing on its hind legs. It was drawn in what looked like blood. Why would Dad draw this? I left the jacket where I found it and headed back to the bus disturbed. It was night and I was sitting by the fire trying to get myself warm when I heard it. It was a noise that I even today can't explain, but I will try my best. It was something like a human screaming, but more animal, if you can get what I'm trying to say. The first time the screaming lasted a couple of minutes. The second time, it seemed to get closer. In a panic, I put out the fire and hoped that it wouldn't find me. The screaming also lasted a couple of minutes, but it suddenly stopped. I did not move and just stood crouched down in fear. That's when I heard a knock on the side of the bus. I got the same feeling in my gut when I entered the forest. Then I heard my dad's voice. "Honey, it's me, Dad. Are you okay?" "Dad, where have you been all this time? I thought you were dead," I questioned, but he stayed silent. "Like I said, I was looking for a safe way off this mountain, and I think I found it. Hurry up, we have to go now." His voice seemed in a rush, and it changed a little bit. Hearing this, I took my backpack, and then I remembered the note. Something was not right. "Dad, didn't you go out to hunt for food for us, as you said in your note?" And then there was just silence. Then, something began to shake the whole bus. I was going to die if I stayed inside, so I pulled out my pocket knife and jumped out of a bus window. I fell in the snow and I ran. It was night, so I just ran forward. Not seeing anything in front of me, I heard the thing running after me. I don't know if it killed Dad or just used his voice, but it wanted to get me. I saw some lights in the distance. It was a cabin. I just hoped that the door was not locked. Luckily, the door wasn't locked, and I rushed inside, and quickly I moved the cabinet in front of the door. The thing that was chasing me didn't try to get inside. There was no sign of the owner. I don't know what to do. I'm so hungry. I just want to thank user SRBin041389 for allowing me to narrate this story. This is the first of a 3-part story, so make sure you stay tuned for the next 2 parts. If you liked what you heard here, please show the author some love. I'll leave a link for the original story in the description below. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, and as always, stay tuned for one more nightmare.